scia, ma penso non ti ho visto poco perché sei andato, ma sembra facile, no veramente.
Quanto giravi te?
45, 7, 8, 9 e ultimi 4-5 giri 46.
Come stavolta la partenza sono partito forte. A parte che anche ieri, ma oggi meglio. Li ho sentiti, li ho lasciati sfilare.
Sì, sì.
Perché tanto partono più forti.
Ci bastava entrare te.
L'ala.
Comunque Pecco ha messo la arda, ha messo la media dietro.
Sì, ha messo la media dietro.
Scusa perché non
Stai bene?
il mono no.
Sì, sì.
Guarda, come andavi, Dio? Quanto giravi, cazzo? Ci sono te.
45 basso.
Io 5, 6, 5. ¿Cómo venía ese cabrón? Se me ha abierto el mono entero, chaval.
¿Hasta abajo?
Se me ha abierto el mono.
Ancora?
Como
Ma
me
mentre
a
stavi?
Barcelona.
Ma fino lì?
Aquí. Y en la 12 hecho. Porque yo ancora mi mente no era, ¿sabes? El lì, chao. Sí, ma estaba spingendo. Estoy ahora mejor. Pilla una, por favor. Sì, ma io ero così, 5-2, mi ha passato e ha spinto in un giro, e lì l'ultimo giro, wow. Si è dato un po' a funghi. Ho perso 3 secondi.
Quanto giravi?
No, lì alla fine 5-4. No, lì, ciao. Wow, all'esterno lì, mamma mia.
L'avevi
E ahí
passato?
a izquierda no tenías grip, tu?
No. Mira.
Wow, bello però. Bello però.
Lì non vedevo più.
Bello,
Mira ahí.
Dio, grande però.
Difficile. Ahí ya he hecho lì a 5-6 alla fine ho fatto ciao.
Bellissimo il casco.
Sì, vero.
Ma non l'hai scelto te? Così?
No. Tutti anche Formula 1? Ah no, alla fine no.
Italia.
Ahora me podría poner el mono, Mejor para lo que es la moto. Dai.
What a Sunday we enjoyed in India. So much drama from the world champion crashing out from second place and blowing that world championship wide open, to everything that happened with Jorge Martin, the levers being undone, zipping them back up, all of the scenario that we saw play out in Parc Ferme. First of all, I think we should start, Simon, and say what great news it is that, as you saw there, Jorge A-OK is here this weekend fighting fit after what was a real scare. But firstly, Jack Appleyard, Simon Crayfire as ever to preview this round 14 of MotoGP in 2023, the Japanese Grand Prix. As we say, Simon, this championship is wide open. 7 rounds to go, 13 points, splitting Pecco and Jorge Martin, 44 before we find Marco Bezzecchi. We're in for a real fight now all the way to Valencia, and I can't wait for it personally.
As you said that, I remembered Gear Up a week ago, saying to you, these guys ride right on the edge. You can't, what is it, count your chickens, basically. But still from now, they ride on the edge every time they go out there, and literally anything can happen. To step back, the Parc Ferme from Jorge was nothing short of upsetting, emotional for me. I know him. He's not much older than my son, and he was not in a good way. You know, he'd fallen down, and a bunch of people working on him. He was being sick. When he did wake up, it was proper scary, you know. And then you see him a little while later, and he's absolutely fine. Yeah. They're tough boys. I'm glad he got through with whatever he was going through. And yes, I'm glad we got through the whole India weekend with it running so well. Because not everybody expected that.
No, overall, in the end, a fantastic weekend. Both the sprint and the Grand Prix delivered. Let's touch on the mistake that I think we've just seen there from Pecco Bagnaia. He has done that quite a bit, not only this season, but at the start of 2022, then also when he was trying to chase down Fabio in 21 as well. We thought, we keep thinking that he's past that. It's a new Pecco. And then he makes these key mistakes at vital moments. Why do we think that is?
You are right, and it's fair to say that. I'm only going on my feelings, and I still don't. There's a great overtake, by the way. Fantastic corner, gives opportunity for different lines. But yeah, it's coming up. From here, once he got in front, he pushed hard to get away and did that. Lost the front. You could even see a little bit of a chatter in the video there. And he did have that rear chatter all weekend. He said it in his debrief that it plagued them all weekend. There's something not right in the braking zone. And I honestly believe him. I don't think Pecco's the sort of guy to make that up. We could visually see it, which is proof to me. In qualifying, when he did that, he was out there trying in the braking area. The rear was hopping right off the ground. And look, I think the mistake Pecco made was not to settle, But we also love races not to settle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's an even finer line. When you've got a problem, you're trying to pull away from Jorge, he's got the same bike as you and he's not slow. He obviously overstepped the mark, with the problem he had. And there's such a fine line. And I don't think less of Pecco. That's what I'm trying to say. And yes, he's done it before. Yeah, what more can I say,
Is that a mistake that he would be making if Jorge hadn't beaten him in 3 straight races up to that point?
Good point.
Is it a mistake that Jorge has forced him into?
With the speed, and also the speed of Bezzecchi, yeah. I feel that he's like looking at the World Championship and I'm going, I want to get the points, I want to do the job, and I admire him for that. But with that problem, he's made another mistake. When the rear chatters like that, you're getting rear contact, which is helping you slow down, and then you're losing it and helping you, and it's unstable on the front when you're, like I've said before, right on the edge. And what I'm saying is it's so close. It's so easy to do. But what I admire is Bez, his ability to not do that. He did it in Silverstone. So he's done it. Yep. They're right on the edge. Different thing, a big hole in the air following someone. Jorge's done it while leading. Not so much this year in those same
memory.
Yeah, but he's did it in Sepang while bolting from everyone. That was last year. But what I'm saying, these boys are fantastic. They're right on the edge. They want it. It's a very easy line to step over.
It's now 5 races in a row if you take into account what happened in Sunday at Catalonia, both races in Misano, of course, both races in India as well. 5 in a row that Jorge Martin has been able to chip away and claw that advantage down to 13 points now. Is the momentum with him at this current moment? Does Pecco need a big weekend, especially with a weekend off coming following this Japanese Grand Prix, to just change the storyline, which at the moment it feels as though everything is going in Jorge's favour?
That was a bit naughty, that overtake. He basically wasn't stopping. I think we're seeing another angle of it. Yeah. Oh, it's another time. That was the one where I believe Jorge, I've had it, is so hot that he's losing the feeling. Basically, you ride with feelings coming through all your limbs, all your body, your hands, your butt, the whole lot. And if you start to lose that because your brain is getting so hot, it's dehydrated, he's starting to lose focus, and making mistakes. And still to fight back and beat, that was, impressive. Jorge, he's found the setting on his bike that he's happy in. It's now been 2 races in a row where he's turned up and it's worked. And Pecco has lost a bit of that feeling in the last 2 races, where Jorge was a couple races back. So it's constantly evolving, and you don't know what's going to happen next.
This weekend in particular, we touched on it just before we went to the podcast. Getting the bike stopped is absolutely paramount to success this weekend. Mm-hmm. And that was, up until a couple of weeks ago, Pecco Bagnaia's strong point. I remember being sat watching one of the press conferences and Jorge said, the one thing that I admire about Pecco at the moment is his ability to get that thing stopped. But
now Jorge can do it.
Now it seems to have turned itself on its head. So again, feels like an important weekend for Pecco to be able to make that breakthrough. Otherwise, here of all places, he's really going to struggle to go with the guys that have got that front feeling.
Yes, and because of everything you just said, which is dead right, is the reason I'm putting my money on Bears again, because Bears had front feel and braking ability above everyone else at the last race, which was a hard braking track. And this track is all about that, almost, even more so, meaning than India. And if he can keep that, he's got the advantage.
He's 44 points adrift now, Marco Bezzecchi. Of course, us in the media are all talking about the fight between Pecco and Jorge, given the fact that they're first and second in the championship. Is he still in the mix? He's on a one-year-old bike. He's only his second year in MotoGP.
No.
But is he a title contender as well? Have we got a three-way fight for this championship?
Yes, because he has the ability to adapt and lack of mistakes. Yes, he makes mistakes, but like you said, it's his second year. In the time he's had on the bike, he makes less mistakes, in my opinion, than his two main rivals in the championship right now. With the same, if you judge those riders at that same point, Bez has got the edge, of being able to not make those mistakes. He makes less. And right now he's got the braking sorted. He's got a bike that hopefully they give him the start device, because that's the main thing he hasn't got to fight against them, is the start. So he has to pass them every time. If they give him that, then it's all on. And even without that, I think I have no idea how it's going to play out, because like I said, it's constantly evolving, but don't rule him out. He's there. He makes less mistakes. In general, he's less experienced, so there's still some mistakes to come. And he's got that braking. He's there. It's a three-way fight.
He's had so much misfortune this year as well. Taken out in Barcelona, taken out in India, taken out in Austria as well. You think if things had gone his way, he'd have been so much closer than he is.
It's a three-way fight. I've got no idea what's going to happen, but it's a fight.
We're looking forward to it. Just quickly on that start device for those at home that might have missed that in previous gear-ups or missed it during pit lane. That's a device that Ducati brought halfway through the season that currently the 2024 bikes have. So those in the factory team, Pecco and Enea when he's back fit, and then also Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco.
So the only machines that have it at the moment, Jorge had it on his bike first. It was shaken down by Pirro, then Jorge, and then once it's that's their normal system. Once it works well, it's passed on to the factory team. And at the moment, up until now, both Jorge and Pecco have it only. And basically, it's like the start device everyone has, but another step better, and it'll be really cool if they pass it to Bez as well.
And that's why we saw the start in India on both occasions. It was easy to see with the three of them on the front row together, despite Bez being on pole position. Both Jorge and Pecco were able to get the jump on him, which we know now. It's been spoken about at length just how important those first few laps are.
Yep. That start device, since it turned up, one of those riders has won every start. The two of them go forward, and so they have the edge in that area because of it. That's over everyone.
That's the title fight then, our analysis of how things are with now 7 races to go in 2023. 7 races, still a lot of races to be had, a lot of points to be won. So I think you're right in what you're saying, that we can expect the unexpected.
And there's more mistakes to come.
So we're looking forward to that. This Japanese Grand Prix as well, also a huge weekend, you feel, for 2024, and in particular, the 8-time world champion Marc Marquez. Rumours continue to persist about a possible move and switch to Gresini Ducati for 2024. Marc was speaking earlier and said that no decision, no announcement will be made this weekend. As is always the case here at the Japanese Grand Prix, we'll touch on Yamaha in a second, but firstly on Honda, there's going to be some very important people in very nice suits rocking up this weekend, Simon, and I imagine there's going to be one topic of conversation with Marc Marquez. Do they have a chance, do you think, even at this late stage, to try and convince him to stay with Honda for next year?
I have no idea what the real outcome of like I always do. I feed in all the information I can get and go on my gut feeling, which sounds silly, but basically it's your subconscious steering you with all the information you got. And I still say I'll be very surprised if Mark leaves Honda. Honestly, I know most of the paddock disagree with me, especially the journalist side, especially. But I can't see it happening. I believe it's his last choice, meaning he'll do it if he can't figure out everything else with Honda, because it's Honda, and they're going to come back. It's just what they're promising and they'll do for next year. And if he's not convinced, oh dear, if he's not convinced, then yes, I think it's a possibility, and it is strange that Grassini's waiting around. There has to be something in that. I wouldn't be surprised if Mark owns part of that, so he can do they can wait, because I'm hypothesizing,
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I really think he doesn't want to do it, and he'll only do it if Honda fail right up into the last decision time. That's my feeling, and I know most people disagree.
In order to stay, if you're in Marc Marquez's shoes, what would you be asking from the Honda bosses? What is necessary for them to catch up and be back fighting at the front again?
Basically showing how serious, who you're hiring for next year to fix the problems, because basically you need to hire the people with the knowledge, because that's the only quick way of doing it. If you have to learn it all yourself and develop it, they have the ability to do that, Honda, as good as anyone. But it'll take time. I think the decade will end before they've got there if they do it alone. That's my opinion, because that's how long it takes to learn these and do it. But if you buy the people or outsource the quick ways to fix all these areas, and I'm talking every area, they are behind. Every area. That's a lot of technology, and that's why I'm saying the decade will run out. So outsource meaning, and for example, Red Bull Advanced Technologies helping KTM. I think both Yamaha, we're forgetting Yamaha are in the same problem, same distress, I think both Yamaha and Honda, these are the things they need to do. The people with the knowledge to show them the way quick, because they need it to be next year, making big steps, and some outsourcing of very high technology people to fix other things like aero, etc.
For Honda, just finally, it was probably their most positive weekend of the year last weekend in India. Both Mark was on the podium in the sprint on Saturday, and then showed great pace before crashing on Sunday. And Joan, I think, pair of us, our fans, were supposed to be impartial, but Joan is such a nice guy, and it's great to see him smiling again. So I guess it was a bit of an anomaly last weekend, given the fact we're going to India for the first time, or am I wrong? Is there a chance that they can carry that through into this weekend?
What happened, Mark and his crew found a different setting on the bike at Misano race that he raced with.
And raced well with. So he liked it. It was a different centre of gravity and different head angle that they hadn't done before. They were probably experimenting like Mark has been doing this year, and they're for next year. That's what they're doing, trying to find the way. And this different geometry, centre of gravity and geometry, he liked, and he went well in Misano. Their Misano test, they shared it with the other Honda riders who liked it, and Joan Mir as well. And since then, Joan's looked like a different person, instead of this bike he can't trust. He's got something to play with. That's all these talented guys need, is a little edge, and they all use it, And I believe it'll work here as well. But how well, because this circuit, one thing, is like India in that it is very hard braking and very hard accelerating. And if you don't have to accelerate on the edge, which is the Honda's weakness, which you don't much here, you're picking it up and driving, they will be all right. I think they'll be in the ballpark, not as bad as they've been in the past this season. Of course, on pole position this time last year, in wet conditions, we have to add, Marc Marquez, but what a return to form that was. Right, on to Yamaha then. I feel as though it may well be a very similar conversation. Spoke with Fabio Quartararo earlier. He's already had the opportunity to speak with the Yamaha president. I imagine we'll do so over the course of the weekend as well. And without saying so, heavily hinted at the fact that the top of his Christmas list was European engineers to try and bring the project further forward. Is it the same story as Honda, or maybe not as far behind? Because we've already seen them bring in Luca Marmarini, who helped Aprilia develop their engine back in 2020. He's already had his first prototype there. Cal Crutchlow was speaking earlier today and said that he actually feels that the new engine that they brought to Misano is maybe not the finished product, but is certainly the right path to follow. So are they as far behind as Honda at this current moment, or are they maybe a step or two ahead?
I think, my impression is the base bike of Yamaha is a bit sweeter than the Honda, It has the same deficit in the end, though, from the Europeans, and meaning KTM, Aprilia, Ducati. They're both way behind in all areas.
Yeah.
So the thing is, Lynn Jarvis is a clever man. He is open-minded. He just wants to get the job done, the goal. He's the one that helped convince Rossi to come to Yamaha. He's not a... and the Yamaha in general are more open than Honda traditionally, So why I say that is I have no doubt that Lynn thinks the same as me and will act on it, meaning the only fast way is to hire outsource people work who are, my gut feeling, putting all the info in again, is they're already on it. There he is on screen there. They're already on it. And I think that's what Fabio's talking about. He probably knows that they're already on it. They'll be telling Fabio, don't worry, we've got these guys to work on aero, these to work on the devices, and these to work on the engine, which we already know. Luca Marmarini's. So the thing is, the first... so I believe Yamaha are on it. They're doing it. That's what I think. And then on the Honda side, the first sign was them working with Kalex. I mean, Honda have done, they're the most closed in the paddock, and then you see that, then there's a change of mentality, So I believe Honda are on it as well, and they'll be promising, Mark, we've got these guys, these people, clever people.
Be interesting to see anyway, and I'm sure over the next weeks and, couple of months before we get to the Valencia test, I'm sure it'll come out and we may well see some new faces in new garages by the Valencia test, which will be the biggest indicator yet of the work that the Japanese manufacturers are doing. Right, just before we head across for the press conference, I just want to touch on KTM, Jack Miller in particular. With regard to 2024, the two big seats that are left, that of Grassini, which I guess is waiting for Marc Marquez's decision, and then KTM's conundrum, which has been well documented. They need to find a spot for Pedro Acosta. Jack Miller won here last year, arguably the best day of his motorcycling career. He was unstoppable, untouchable. Yeah. He needs another day like that pretty soon, otherwise he might start sweating about next year, because things have not been going Jack's way at all of late. And when you've got a talent like Pedro Acosta waiting in the wings, may well get to the point that KTM think, well, Jack maybe could bump down to the gas squad, and let's get this kid on the factory bike straight away.
I've thought about that and said it somewhere. I'm trying to remember where. Anyway, it must have been in the commentary with Bertie during last weekend, and that is my feeling if I was KTM was no matter what, I think they love Brad and Jack, KTM.
They do work very well together.
Yeah, and they appreciate, the ambience and the way they work with the engineers, and we know what Brad does is awesome. Jack, he brought so much at the beginning of the year, to them, and they know he's got it in him. Jack, look, I'd go as far as saying he's a big softie. It's why we love him. His wife is at home with a brand new baby, and I'm sure that's a part of it, and whatever else there is in there as well. And I believe KTM are patient enough to wait to the other side of this dip, and that Jack's back. And he will be. It'll be this year. He'll be back, and we'll go, thank you, Jack's back. But when it comes to the seat Jack is occupying, I think there is zero chance of Pedro getting it. I would go that far and say zero, because as a team manager, if I was a team manager or Pitt, or you go, that young lad needs to be out of the limelight a little more and learning how to brake on a MotoGP bike, how to feel the tyres, how to set up the electronics, how to cope with that power, you know. And then when he's figured that out, yes, Jack's seat will be in trouble. But next year, I think zero chance of that happening, because it's you're going to upset Jack by kicking him out after all he's done and, brought to KTM and prematurely, and also putting too much pressure on a lad that could smash it up, you know.
Yeah.
You got to go, take it easy, for 1 year at least.
All signs are that Jack will be staying where he is for next year. All of the talk from KTM is that their rider lineup will be unchanged, and as you say, fully agree that there is a very, very, very small likelihood of Jack being demoted down. However,
there's still someone going.
Things can always change in MotoGP.
Yeah.
It is, after all, a results-based business.
Oh, very much.
And Jack needs results pretty quick to turn this around. What have been his big struggles at the moment? Because I know we've got a lot of Australian fans watching at home that will be hoping that he can turn it around by the time we get to Phillip Island, which is only around the corner.
Yeah. The thing is, I can't pinpoint one. He's just got lost basically they were trying some Brad Binder settings a while ago that Brad was making work, and we could go deeper into that. I might have to do it in commentary. What Brad does that I think's quite special. He basically works with a very different setup and manages to make it work. Jack tried that, trying to get more rear grip, but all he did was lose all his other advantages,
right,
front end wise and that. So they went back. By then he's lost his mojo, lost his way, and that's what I'm saying. I'm waiting for it to come back. Jack's there. Fingers crossed it's this weekend.
Yeah, we can touch on that more in between this first press conference and the second one. We'll also get a chance to talk Aprilia. What are their chances this weekend after one to forget, really, in India? But our focus now is the 2023 MotoGP World Championship fight, because if you didn't know already, it is game on, and here are our three title contenders: Pecco Bagnaia, Jorge Martin and Marco Bezzecchi, previewing this round 14 of 2023, the Japanese GP.